we're going to be looking at some Commander overperformers.
I'm your host, Joe Cherries.
I'm your host, BZ, joined by Amber, and that makes us the Nitpicking Nerds. You can support the Nitpicking Nerds via your local Patreon. Every town has a Patreon link. They're all the same. Go to the description and you can support us directly, and it makes the show directly better.
That was actually a text message directly from Patreon saying you have to go support us now because our support isn't high enough.
They really shouldn't be telling us. They should be telling them.
They should be telling you, but they text us. I don't know.
Very weird system.
Very weird system. TCGplayer.com is the best place to go if you want to buy Magic cards and support the Nitpicking Nerds. As long as you start with our affiliate link that you've already bookmarked, guess what? Go to the website, buy the cards, spend all your disposable income that you can reasonably spend without damaging you or your family, and then you're supporting the Nitpicking Nerds.
Yeah, but I don't understand. How much extra do they have to pay to support us?
Nothing, BZ.
Whoa, that seems good for everybody.
Exactly. So they can use all their disposable income on Magic cards and nothing else, and will still be supported.
You'll still be making the show better. You'll still be feeding Amber. And Moxfields.com is a sponsor of the channel, and I cannot say the word sponsor. You can look forward to the ad coming in the middle of this video that you will not be able to predict. Even though there's only 10 cards to talk about today, you still won't be able to predict where the ad is.
Yeah, and it is in the video. I guarantee you that.
Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Nitpicking Nerds, there's no way that you can possibly do all of this and direct me to a fun place to watch sketch comedy. But wait, we can.
Yes, see, over at Concept of Legends, they're doing an awesome new sketch comedy show about Magic the Gathering called Multiverse Cable Network. They're doing all these little sketches. They're all very silly, very fun, very funny. Alper, Nate, and Allison are putting in hard work over that channel, so go check out their brand new series. There will be multiple. This is the debut episode.
The first one. No one else will know.
Brand new episode.
Nobody knows how it is. You can watch and see how it is. You can check what it is. We're telling you what it is. And if you needed any more incentive, any sub plus comment on their entire channel, not even just that video, automatically qualifies you to win a mythic rare from Phyrexia. All will be one. Alper offered to tell us what it is. We just declined. We don't even want to know. I like to keep the mystery intact. So there's something you can do right after you watch this video. There's a link in the description.
Happy birthday to everyone whose birthday is today.
What's an Overperformer?
An Overperformer is a card that, for some reason or another, me and BZ have thought was going to do less than it did. Some of these cards we already thought were good. We thought, hey, this is a good card. But we played it and it's like, oh no, this is a great Magic card. Or some of them are going to be like, we thought it was bad. And now it's like, hey, it actually plays pretty good.
This first one is very interesting. I had not really played with these effects before, but I've played enough with them now. Hushbringer and Hushwing Griff. All the cards that say, shh. All these creatures, they're so loud. They enter the battlefield and they gotta just do a bunch of stuff. They're so flashy and they're just all this obnoxious value, but these cards just say, hey, creatures entering the battlefield don't cause abilities to trigger, and Hushbringer goes even one step further and says you don't get dice triggers either.
Yeah, these cards are undeniably good. I actually strongly dislike them. They are definitely cards on my salty list where it's like, if there's a card that's going to make me salty, it's usually some of these cards. The new Elish Norn. When you're shutting off ETBs, it shuts off a lot of fair stuff is what ends up happening, because usually your ETB type creatures, other than like your Thoracles and your Docksides, they're mostly doing fair stuff. When you're playing Solemn and your Solemn shut off, that feels so bad. These cards
Hushbringer shuts off both halves.
It does. I mean, so let's just talk about Hushbringer. Like, let's put that one on screen. Let's talk about that. That card is silly. It can literally shut off entire decks, entire archetypes, because it is so strong. And when you build your deck to include this card, it doesn't shut off much in your list.
Yeah, because you're the one who knows that you're going to have it on the battlefield some of the time. I am less salty than Cherries. I'll have to get it played with and against me more. But as it stands, like some of these decks where just every single creature is just immediate value, immediate this. You can board wipe as many times as you want. I'm just going to eventually get 1,000 ETB triggers and be ahead of you. I'm kind of okay stopping some of that. Sometimes it's nonsense, and sometimes I'm glad to have a way to stop it. So if you're like if your friends aren't going to be bothered by this, these cards are like really, really good.
Yeah, I wish I had a better way to explain it, but there's a difference between preventing someone from playing, which I feel like these do, and interacting and removing their stuff. I feel like,
but there also is like no way to interact with those cards, because like I can't interact with Wood Elves. I can kill Wood Elves, but Wood Elves isn't the card. The card is the forest.
Yeah.
So like at some point, if you do that like 20 times, I'm gonna lose.
Which is also a fair point, but I think the denial of playing, this is where we go to Rule 0, right? Where you come back around and it's like, you're right. I think you're absolutely, like, you're on the nose. You're hitting it perfectly. But then how these cards play, they're just not fun.
Well, we do get to talk about the exact same thing for different decks with our second card, because Hushbringer and Hushwing Griff, not the funnest cards in the format, certainly overperformed what we even thought of them.
They're so good.
And we thought they were good. But this next one, very similar. What is it?
It's a Wave of Vitriol, which has such a fitting name. Yeah, everybody sacrifices their artifacts, enchantments, and non-basic lands, and for each land sacrifice, this way you go get a basic. Turns out this card just kind of demolishes decks. And if you don't have a high basic count, it not only does it demolish your artifacts and enchantments, which is why I played this card mainly, it also just wrecks your mana base overall. This card is silly good. It is overcosted, and it looks like it doesn't do that much. But so many decks don't have enough basics, and even when they do, you shut off all of their utility lands. They're in their graveyard now, and now they have only basics.
Yeah, and I think, to me, this card fits in the exact same area as Hushbringer and Hushwing Griff. It's fair. There's no words on this card that I go, I can't believe they printed that. That's obnoxious. It's just it's like a Bane of Progress variant, except I know me, in all my 3+ color decks, I'm playing 7 basics most, and so I probably have 1 or 2 of them in play. So it basically turns my 10 lands into 7. And my colors are weird. I'm not really color fixed anymore. Not perfectly anyway. And if you're an artifact deck or an enchantment deck, you lose the game. Although that is still true with cards that we play all the time, like Bane of Progress. But this is just it's a fair way to stop all these greedy, put 78 lands into play decks. But at the same time, it feels like you're just crippling them and they can never do anything now.
It's another card where I think that just like Hushbringer, just like Hushwing Griff, super overperformer, super strong, super great magic card. A card that I'm actually taking out of a deck because I like to I've noticed that there's a trend. I cast / this is reveal off the top of my deck with Oracle Modiah, and it's a huge groaner, and everyone's just like, all right, well, that's stupid. And it's well, if that's the case, I won't play it because I like my friends to have fun. But if you have friends who don't care about things like Wave of Vitriol, Hushbringer, get them in your deck. They're so good.
Yeah, seriously. And I don't know, at some point the game has to end. We're clearly past turn 8 if this is going to be that backbreaking. If you ramp into it on turn 4, it doesn't do anything. This is clearly a late game card. The game has to end. And if we're talking about Urza's Silex being fair, this has to be close to that.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just it sucks and I hate it, but I'm okay losing to it, I think. I don't know. It's interesting spots. These next 8 cards, certainly cards we're just going to recommend playing all the time, though. Like Moxfield.com. It's a website. You go there, and you can sort all your decks, and you can even put tags in your cards. If you have 2 different play groups, and one of them cares more about salty cards, and the other one's just play what you want to play. I like high-power games or just no-holds-barred games, even if they are lower power. You can salt tag these cards and have the other cards as normal tagged, and then when you sort by tags, you know what to trade out between playgroups. And there's just infinite things you can do on Moxfield.com.
Yes, including following tons of awesome content creators who are putting their decks on to Moxfield.com for you to see. Now, it's useful for us to put them on there for ourselves, but we make them public because we want you to be able to see all of our decks, take in the information, and build like us, or build, see, hey, Joe has a Henty deck. I love that Henty deck. Let me see what Joe's playing in Henty so I can get some suggestions for my list. We're not the only ones doing that. There's probably 22 content creators at least on the website.
Yeah, at least. We counted them all exactly, give or take 2. Apparently it's only 22. There's a bunch of people on there. You can look at all their decks. I have some budget brews that we don't really ever talk about on the channel that are my personal decks that some people have found helpful. So go check our stuff out. Go check out Moxfield and see what it has to offer. If you haven't done it by now, you're stinky.
All right, on to the next one. We have Ghostly Pilfer, 2 mana, 2/1. The important thing, you can discard cards to make this thing unblockable. Not the important part, because the important part of this card is whenever somebody casts a spell not from their hand, draw a card. That text is strong, powerful, and just, as we would say, overperforms all the time. And if you have discard synergies, like you're playing some sort of blue-black discard type strategy like BZ's Oscar deck, woo, this just gets boosted.
Yeah, it gives all your madness cards flash, as they tend to have, but this is your discard outlet. And you forgot the other part of the card. When it becomes untapped, you can pay 2 mana to draw a card. Just more words on it. There's just, this card is great. There's really not much it can't do. Early game, it's fantastic. Late game, hopefully you have some way to pay it off. It even gets in combat damage. You're taking the initiative, taking the monarchy. It just kind of slices and dices, and it's only 2 mana. Flashback spells, mainly commanders, what we're looking at. It probably comes down like before. If you're playing it before turn 5, you're gonna draw like 2 cards off of it for sure. And then it's just a creature that drew you 2 and has more words on it. Okay.
This card is the fun Janeth Magistrate because it doesn't actually stop them.
It
from
just
playing
lets. It's just like it's like Opposition Agent versus Archivist of Ogma. It's like people are gonna actually do the thing when Archivist of Ogma's out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Ghostly Proffer is just it's weird because I think it has 4 different lines of text that are all super mediocre, but they add up to this really strong and like silly card because it just looks so bad. It really does. When I read this card went under our radar for I don't know when did this card come out, 3 or 4?
I don't even know what sets it from. Is it like core set maybe?
It's so old, but it came out so long ago that we slept on it for years until like maybe last year or the year before. We're like, oh, this card's good.
Oh wait, I draw cards with this.
Yeah, and it could easily fly under your radar too, but not anymore. It's not. It overperforms. Put it in your deck. If you just find the synergy, you're playing spirits. Get in your deck.
Yeah, I think about a year and a half ago was when we were getting really, really excited about an incarnation technique. And then that sort of led into like, let's see what the other techniques do. And it turns out the blue one's pretty good. Oh, wow, that's way better than we thought. The white one's way better than we thought. The red one sees play in some decks. And now we're here talking about healing technique, which we thought was easily the worst one, still overperforming our expectations. It's basically regrowth for you. Then you gain life equal to whatever you regrew. And you do it twice, and you let somebody do it once. But the thing about healing technique is all the information is already on the table. You know exactly what's in everybody's graveyard. You pick the opponent with the worst graveyard or someone who offers something to help you, and then you're just in gravy town.
Yeah, I think the most important part of this, when you want to play this, you want to care about the life gain. That is where you want this card. Your green life gain decks, which is becoming more and more prominent. Green is becoming one of the main life gain colors. I mean, it just is one of the main life gain colors. So when you're playing green life gain, this card fits in perfectly because you get the double regrowth. It has the exact cost of a double regrowth, but you get the life. That's the bonus this thing gives you. And like we said, you're handing this away. I've cast this now 2-4 times. I just started playing it recently. Every time somebody's got a crappy graveyard, I'm just like, go ahead, take whatever you want, and I'll take my 2 best things.
I mean, you can, I guess, also wombo combo this with Graveyard Hate, right?
Yes, yeah. If you remove someone's graveyard, they don't get anything from this, this is like the only technique like that where you can guarantee they might not get something.
Right, like his incarnation technique, they're still milling 5, so they might hit something. With the white one, how is there not going to be something to blow up and play? Exactly,
they're going to get value, and this it just can't really come back to hurt you unless it's super late game and everyone's got an amazing graveyard. But even then, it's modal. You can just use it as a 4-mana bad regrowth and gain some life. And not give it away in that situation.
Yeah, just don't demonstrate. Just take the baseline.
Yes,
it can't hurt you. It'll only ever gain you life.
Yes. Next is just a board wipe, and I always thought it was a medium board wipe, but it's just a good board wipe when you're in a super heavy creature deck. It's Massacre Girl. 5 mana comes down. Everything gets -1/-1. Then for the rest of the turn, if something dies, it all gets -1/-1 again, and it chains. It just doesn't hit itself.
Yeah, and it's all one trigger. It's just like it's a really weird card. Mm-hmm. Like once the trigger goes in the stack, that. As long as it resolves, that like static of creatures dying is not tied to Massacre Girl. It just kind of happens.
I've literally not seen Massacre Girl not wipe the board. It's so rare and it's so hard to stop. She chains off and she ends up killing like 15, 16 power creatures all the time.
If there's 2 1/1s, it's really hard to stop it from chaining. If there's 1 1/1, you can kill it in response to the trigger and sort of stop this chain from ever starting. But then also another kill spell will reset the chain and make it keep going. It's just it's pretty hard to stop. And the fact that it's a creature means it's really easy to recur. So even if it's, like, oh, you wiped 6 creatures away, it's like, I'll see you next turn. I can just keep doing this. Like Carador decks, how do you stop them?
Yeah,
just keep wiping the board.
Massacre Girl just keeps going. She keeps doing it. And I love this. If you're playing a creature heavy deck and you're looking for the board wipes, like you need a board wipe, this is the one you should go to. It is slightly overcosted. Like we're looking at 4 mana is like the where you want to be for a board wipe. That's the going rate.
But there's board states where it's bad.
Yes, and there is board states where this card is bad. But it's so often a board wipe that is just a creature, which is something you want for your creature heavy decks, that I am more than happy playing it in my decks.
Yeah, it's really, really good. So even like if you have 2, good stuff board wipes, this could be like your 2.5, 3. This is your 3rd board wipe that synergizes super well with your whole deck. Number 6 is Pier's Whim. I don't know if we've numbered these at all, but number 6 is Pier's Whim. It's 3 and a green for a sorcery. You choose friend or foe for each player. I don't know why I said person. Each friend searches their library for any land and just puts it on the battlefield, tapped, and then every foe sacrifices an artifact or enchantment. So you get yourself a nice, clean 4 for 1. Obviously, everybody's their enemy, and you go get the best land in your deck.
And that's true. that card will be very good, where each of your opponents sacrifice and you search. It also has political value and fun value to go with it. Like, we're not always here for the fun value.
I've given people lands when they miss a land drop.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like there is just, like, you can even be like, hey, just go get a basic. Nothing's fancy, but you can get a land. And it's like, oh, I'll take that. But it's like friend or foe. And, like, when you just play it spiky and you go, all right, I'll get my best land in the play, Field of the Dead. And then everybody else sacrifice at least one. And this card comes down early enough that your opponents don't have a ton of choices often to choose from.
No, it's like, I'll take your Phyrexian Arena. I got your Signet. Like, you don't get to sacrifice, like, a Mir token. That's not going to be in play.
No, not yet. We haven't. It's still setup time in turn 4. Like,
then, late game, it's perfectly fine. They'll still sacrifice something. You got something out of them, and you got 4 mana, go find a land.
It's just these... all the tutors that say go find any land and put it in play
are good.
Are really, really good because of all the broken lands in this format that will be here forever. Especially, it's Gaia's Cradle just like makes this card super duper busted.
Yeah, if you're playing Gaia's Cradle in your deck and you're not CDH level, this is probably also should be in your deck. I mean, we have like Phyrexian Tower's not going anywhere. Nykthos will never get banned. Even like and obviously Field of the Dead is just, I don't think that's ever going to get banned.
I'd ban it.
Yeah, but this well, I would hate you. Then this says 4 mana, also put a blocker in play.
Yes. Next, we have Journey to Eternity. You put it on a creature, it's an aura, and then when that creature dies, return it and flip it into a land that can now tap and pay some mana into it to get back a creature from the graveyard to the battlefield.
Yes, 5 tap, return a creature. I started playing this in my Beladros deck, and I have played it in other decks like Skullbriar, and I think Carador way back in the day. This card is good because you play Sack Outlets in your deck, so that once it resolves, they can never ever stop you from getting the trigger, returning the creature into play, which is honestly just gravy. I want my stupid busted land that nobody's going to interact with except with Beast Within or Strip Mine to then just spam my best creature over and over and over. And it's kind of like, if you don't answer this, I don't know how you beat me long term.
Yeah, it's so much value over time. You just keep getting a creature back over and over again. You leave this 6 mana aside as you go into the late game. Use whatever other mana you have, play out creatures, but then this 6 mana over here, it's always whatever the best thing in your graveyard. You're playing on an access people that interact with a lot, the land slot. The bad side of this card that I've seen a couple times, they're going to kill your creature a lot. I go for the kill every time. It's like, I don't care if you're putting on what else. I will Beast Within it right away.
Yeah, it's early. Playing it early without a Stack Outlet is risky. Once you have a Stack Outlet, Phyrexian Tower, Viscera Seer, whatever, it's free. You just do it immediately, or I guess you can wait because there's really no way outside of Croson Grip to stop you. I go for it right away just to get the thing done. This card has won me so many games just by existing on the battlefield. I got there was a game where I had Kakusho in my graveyard, and it's like, okay, you can attack me, and I'll get Kakusho back and block with it, or you can do nothing, and then I'll get Kakusho back into turn.
Yeah. So what I meant for Journey, I'm responding to them targeting it with the aura. That's the response.
Yeah, that's the spot where they could get you. You got to make sure the shields are somewhat down.
Yeah, I try and get. Like I said, I'll kill a Wood Elf if they're putting it on.
You should, yeah.
Yeah, because it just to deny this card and from ever going off.
Number 8, a card I probably never would have ever played if I hadn't built my recent little Cascade Treasure deck. Sees the Spotlight. It's 2 and a red, and the wording is really weird. Each player chooses Fame or Fortune. For each Fortune vote, you're going to get a Treasure and draw a card. And then for each Fame vote, you choose a creature they control, and you steal it until the end of turn. It doesn't target, so you can hit Hexproof, Ward, Shroud all day. There's really no way for them to stop it. And once the spell resolves, they can't respond because you're not targeting anything, so it just happens. You just take the stuff. And what makes this so busted is, in the right deck, you're playing Sacrifice Outlets. Whether it's in the command zone or on the battlefield, your opponents will know that this card says destroy one of their creatures unless they give you a treasure and a card, which means this says pay 3 mana, draw 3 cards, get your 3 mana back.
Yes, exactly. Which is super silly to think about. This card actually just plays like that every single time.
Every time I've played it, that's what it's been.
Which is crazy because that is an incredibly, incredibly strong magic card. That's 0 mana, draw 3, get 3 new permanents.
And your opponents, it still gives your opponents a choice. And it's still amazing.
Yeah, exactly. Giving your opponent a choice is always bad. The fact of the matter is, it just actually doesn't give them a choice because they don't want their best thing sacrificed. It's a very rare situation. And when they don't have anything in the field, you hold this card.
You just don't play it.
Exactly. You wait and you bide your time like a turn or two until they play something they don't want to die. And then you slam this card It works perfect with Dargo. Dargo is always a sack outlet in the command zone, so you can't even stop that.
No, you just put on the stack and their creatures are dead.
It literally sacrifices from the command zone, which is silly. And if you have a sacrifice outlet or 2 on the battlefield, they're not going to give you. They're not giving you anything. And
it's really good head games. They're just not going to do it. It may or may not be right. It still feels pretty brutal to have your best creature die, and the other 2 people are like, no, take a treasure and a card.
And even if they don't have a sack right on the board, are you going to take that risk? Are you going to go, I don't think you have a sack. I'll take my best thing, and then your best thing dies, and you're like, well, my bluff was called.
Or your best thing is like an Atali, and you can't even let them attack with it. Where it's like, I just can't give you this. It's too good. It's got an attack trigger. It's like a big, giant creature that's going to hit me. Season Spotlight has been amazing, and it's like $2.50, so I'm probably going to pick up another one in case I end up playing it in something.
It is super important just to play this with sack outlets. That's all that matters, because when you play with sack outlets, that's when it is the overperformer that we've seen.
Oh, yeah.
If you're not playing with sack outlets, the card's bad.
It's probably mid.
I would almost say bad. Because
like I don't really... at that point, I'm questioning why I'm playing it.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I'm saying. But that's the important part of this card. Make sure you're playing it with them sack outlets, and it's silly.
Yeah, because the floor, like, even if you want 3 treasures and 3 cards, the floor is like triple murder.
Also, one of the stupidest things about Season Spotlight, on top of that, in your sacrifice decks, it makes 3 treasures. Those sacrifice. It's just another synergy for a sacrifice deck.
It just does everything. Season Spotlight's great. How about number 9?
It is Gale, Waterdeep Prodigy. Whenever you cast an instant, you can cast a sorcery out of your graveyard. Whenever you cast a sorcery, you can cast an instant out of your graveyard. You do have to pay mana cost, but you do get around timing restrictions. And this card, it just snapcasters every time you cast one or the other. So
they have to be from your hand, though, so you're not going to chain off every card in your graveyard, obviously. But yeah, you cast a sorcery, it's like free instant. Free from your, like, you basically drew a card.
Yeah, Gale is a weird card, but it really does perform quite well. Like you said, you cast your instant, you get your sorcery. I think the most important part is just make sure you're playing a deck, and most Spellslinger decks are like this, where there's a balance of instant and sorceries. If you're one of those Spellslinger decks like a Calamax deck that's playing 40 instants, obviously keep this out of your deck.
Yeah, maybe don't do that. But yeah, Gale, you throw down an Opt, which then casts a Treasure Cruise, and now you've drawn more cards, so you have another instant to play, and you can play a Consider. And now you're casting like some sorcery speed kill spell, like, I don't know, name one.
Yeah, exactly. And it like you said, it just goes off. And because you get around timing restrictions, when you cast your instant, you get to cast a sorcery on other people's turns. So if you're holding up a counter spell and you go, okay, I'll counter spell your thing, all right, I will also cast my Preordained from my graveyard just to get that extra value.
And I think it just says you can cast it from your graveyard, so like I can Vandal Blast Overload after I cast my Opt on your turn.
It's a value engine. It's an absolute value engine by itself. I imagine this card in the command zone's good, and in the 99, it's great.
Yeah, I think I have kind of liked it more than just regular Snapcaster Mage. Like, I don't play Snapcaster Mage.
Yeah, I mean, it's more value. I think Snapcaster Mage is more of a, as you kind of sneak toward higher power, the one-time, one-off, cheap investment right away to use, whereas this is something you have to build up into a later game. So games that go later, Gale's going to be better. Games that are going to end on turn 5, 6, Snapcaster's going to be better.
And then even then, I'm still questioning Snapcaster, because like you're adding 2 mana to a spell when you're under time crunch. Snapcaster's a weird card. I can't think of a home for it, but I do love Gale. Now this next card is like easily looks the worst out of any card on this list. It looks like a piece of garbage that I guarantee half of you didn't even know existed. It's Strength Testing Hammer. It's a 1-mana equipment from Unfinity. It equips for 3. When the creature attacks, you roll a d6 and it gets +X+0, where X is the result. And then if it's the biggest creature in play or tied, you get to like draw cards. So it just adds a bunch of power. On average, you're getting 3 or 4 power bonus to your creature. That's probably enough in the early to mid game to draw you a card, depending on what your creature is. And this can contribute to like Voltron kills. I think I saw this in that like meme / metagamed Slicer deck for CDH. I think this sees some play in like higher power things because it's kind of unique, and I kind of hate that this card is good.
Yeah, it's weird because this card looks awful, and it's an uncard. It's supposed to be silly.
Roll a d6. Strength testing. It's literally the hammer that you play the test your strength game with.
Yeah, exactly. And it's literally that hammer, and that hammer is actually a playable good card. It's good. It's really good with any creature that. There's a few where you give it away every single turn. It's obviously insanely strong in those decks.
Yeah, so Slicer would be one of those. Yeah, because you give it away.
Yeah, that's why Slicer is one of them that gives away itself. So that's why it's in that deck. And also, if you have any synergy with dice rolling, it's really good. Growing power, it's really good. I mean, if you're playing a Powers Matter deck, this just goes on, and then it's going to always be the highest if you're playing that kind of deck.
Yeah, like, do you just put this on your Rafik? You know, it's like, okay, here's an 8-power double striker. I drew a card.
Put it on my Golta. Okay, here comes Golta.
You're dead.
Yeah, exactly. It's hitting for at least 13 damage, and I'm definitely drawing a card. How is Golta not the biggest thing on the battlefield?
It's so weird. I'm sure it's worthless money-wise, so if you want to score a copy and see, like, how good it can actually be, you will be impressed by it. The bar was so low.
This is probably one of the biggest gaps for Overperformers, where it's like, this card, if I put it in my Will dice rolling deck purely because it rolled dice.
The deck sucks, and this is probably like the 5th best card in that deck.
It's so silly because it doesn't look good at all.
No, it looks hilariously bad.
Absolutely like a bulk piece of garbage.
My eyes glaze over when I read it.
Exactly. And then you put it in the deck, it's like, oh, wait, this card actually does something.
I drew a card?
Yeah, wait, what is going on? Why am I drawing cards? Why am I actually doing my game plan with this stupid hammer?
Yes, if you want to see other cards that we rated lower than the power level of them and they ended up being way better than we thought, that video is right here. How could you miss the opportunity to click it right now?
Do it. Peace out, Tribe Scouts.